knowledge. He says, Mad Bhakta etad Vigyaya. My devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. So he has concluded that discussion in 13.19. And then he moves on to the next subject. So if you remember, Arjuna had asked 6 questions to Krishna. So Krishna is answering those questions one by one. Now he is going to talk about Prakriti. So we already discussed 13.20 and 13.21. Both of these verses talked about Prakriti, and again in 13.22 he's going to talk about Prakriti. But when he talks about Prakriti, he talks what is Prakriti in relation with the Jiva, the soul. Excuse me. So just to remind, what did Krishna say in 13.20? He said, Prakratim Purusham Chaiva Vidhi Anadi Ubhavapi. The material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. So actually, Prakriti and Purusha, Purusha is basically soul, both are Anadi, they are beginningless, they are eternal. So actually all religions talk about God, but the mental conception that comes in people's mind when they talk about God are very different. So when a Hindu talk about God, they generally think about, say, Krishna or Ram or maybe some other person. But when people from Abrahamic religions, Abrahamic religions are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, when they talk about God, they have a very different conception about God. Their understanding is that they don't think Prakriti to be eternal. They think that matter is temporary. So that's why one of the biggest philosophical problems that the Abrahamic religions cannot explain is, how does God create something from nothing? Of course God can do anything. That is one answer, and that is completely acceptable, but that's like appealing to the transcendental power of God for every small thing. But if we look at it from a point of view of law of conservation of energy that science has found out, they can't explain how God created something out of nothing. So this is called creation ex nihilo. Ex nihilo means out of nothing. So creating out of nothing is referred to as creation ex nihilo. Now that is not the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is very clear that although God can create something out of nothing, but he doesn't have to, because even matter is eternal. The matter is an energy of Krishna. And just as Krishna is eternal, all his energies are also eternal. So in that sense, matter is eternal. So when we say creation, it doesn't mean creation from non-existence to existence. Creation means creation means imparting of form to the unmanifest matter. Now, even in our day-to-day life, we see that creation doesn't mean we create something entirely new from scratch. Now, suppose we have to build our own house. What we do is we have the raw materials available to us, and we give rise to a new form, using those raw materials. So the matter changes from one form to another. That essentially is creation. So the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita is that both Jiva and Prakriti, the soul and material nature, are eternal. So Srila Prabhupada also describes in the introduction that in the Bhagavad Gita, 5 entities are talked about. What are those 5 entities? Can anyone answer that? What are the 5 entities that are described in the Bhagavad Gita? Prabhupada mentions this in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita. Am I audible to everyone? Just wanted to confirm, because on Saturday we were having some trouble.
No, we can hear you. Is it earth, water, fire, air, ether? I don't know. Is that the 5 elements?
No, not the elements, Mataji. 5 entities. No, not that. So actually, Prabhupada says, there are 5 things that are described in Bhagavad Gita in detail. Very clear understanding of these 5 things come. So those 5 things are Jiva. So Jiva is the soul. The living entities are called as Jiva. Then we have Prakriti. Prakriti is the material nature. Then Ishvara. Ishvara is God, the supreme personality. The controller.
Basu.
Then we have Kal. Kal is the eternal time. And then finally we have Karma. So Jiva, Prakriti, Ishwar, Kal, and Karma. So these 5 things are described in the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada mentions that, and we see that all these 5 things are, very clearly comes. The definitions are also given in the Bhagavad Gita. So out of these, only Karma is not eternal. All other entities are actually eternal. So Jiva is eternal, Prakriti is eternal, Ishwar is eternal, and Kal is also eternal. Time is actually eternal. So we do see that so many things are changing in Prakriti, but that change happens only in the realm of Prakriti. That is the next verse that Krishna actually says in the 13th chapter itself, that is 13.21. Krishna says, Karya Karan Kartrutve Hetu Prakriti Ruchyate, Purushaha Sukha Dukkhanam Bhoktratve Hetu Ruchyate. Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in the world. So this is 13.21. So verse 13.21 is one of the most enigmatic verses of Bhagavad Gita. And this exact same verse also comes in Srimad Bhagavatam. Anyone knows where it is in Bhagavatam? It's a very, very important verse in one sense. This exact, almost identical, very like few minor things here and there, but otherwise it's exact same verse comes in Srimad Bhagavatam. Anybody? Okay, all right, I'll answer. So it is in the third canto, we have the 26th chapter. So in that, I believe it is the 8th verse, 3.26.8. Now, what exactly does this mean? Karya karan kartutve hetu prakriti ruchyate. Now, because the word cause comes twice, it may sound a little confusing. Material nature is said to be the cause of all causes and effects. So instead of cause, we can use the word substratum. A substratum is the basis on which all material causes and effects happen. So all the causes and effects are happening on the substratum of Prakriti. But when all the causes and effects are happening, actually the soul is not affected by this. But why does the soul gets affected? The Purusha Sukha Dukkhanam. He goes through happiness and distress. Why? Bhoktrutve hetu ruchyate, because of the desire to enjoy. Now, I just want to clarify. Now, we already have discussed these verses, but because we are going to 13.22, and that 13.22 is a very, very important verse of Bhagavad Gita. So I am giving a little background about what is going to come in 13.22 and what we have discussed about Prakriti so far. That's why I'm discussing all this. So we are going to recite 13.22 in just a minute once we have this background. Now, how do we understand this? For example, many of us would have experienced the simulated reality games. It is like 5D, which appeals to all the senses, and it seems exactly real. So nowadays, when airlines have to train the pilots, they have simulated flight environments. They can't make a whole airplane fly just to train one pilot. So they have simulated flight environments for training pilots. Similarly, there are simulated cars also nowadays. So suppose someone is moving at a very high speed in a simulated car, which is essentially virtual reality. Say the car approaches a bridge and suddenly the bridge collapses. So what will happen? The car will fall from the bridge into the river and immediately it will be swept away with the river. And the driver will meet with his virtual death. Nowadays we are also associating virtually. This is the age of virtual reality. So although we are associating virtually, but it feels real. It feels like, I'm sitting in front of you, you are sitting in front of me, and we can talk to each other. And it is actually virtual association. It feels exactly real, but it is not real in a way. So now will his virtual death affect him or not? So it is not going to affect him in a sense that he will not actually die, but to the extent he is identifying himself with the virtual reality or simulated environment, to that extent he will be affected. So he will get a brief shock. Now something similar happens when we see movies. The people get so engrossed in watching movies that they start experiencing the same emotions that the characters in the movies are experiencing. Now, when we go to watch a movie, we know that it is just acting, it's not real. But when we sit down to watch the movie, we get carried away by it. When I was a young boy, I saw that movie of Rajesh Khanna. What is that movie in which he gets leukemia? Anand. So basically, what happens in that? He gets leukemia and he dies. So, and after watching that, I cried for several hours. I was just a little boy. Then later, I felt very bad. I told my mom, "No, I'm such a fool. I was crying for a movie which is not even real." Then my mom told me that actually, no, it is not real, but it affected so many people. She told me one of her the friends, she committed suicide after watching this movie. This is something shocking. Just if some actor die in a movie, somebody can commit suicide, and actually people actually get affected by it. You might
Which movie, Ganpati Govind? I missed a little bit of it.
Anand.
Okay.
You remember, right, Mataji? It was a famous movie. Anand. So actually, even for cricket matches, no, I heard one of the Sri Lankan fan when Sri Lanka lost the World Cup. No, he committed suicide just because of that, and the players they didn't bother too much about it. Okay, I mean they might have felt sad about it, but I'm sure none of the players who actually played the match they committed suicide. So people they get affected. So we can't say that virtual reality doesn't affect people. It does affect. So actually because people get so much affected by the movies that they think it is actually real. Now of course we were talking about Rajesh Khanna. No, he had become a big star that time and he had a huge fan following, but still just died in a movie it is actually just too much. Now interestingly, we know that when Rajesh Khanna actually died in the real life, no one actually committed suicide because he was no longer a superstar. In fact, he had actually slipped into anonymity that time when he passed away. So now if we try to connect these examples, all that is happening in a simulated environment, all that is on the substratum of the virtual reality. So karya karan kartutve hetur prakritir uchyate. So everything good or bad that is happening in the material world, it is happening only in the realm of prakriti. But Purusha Sukha Dukkhanam Bhoktrutve Heturuchyate. A person who has a desire to enjoy gets caught up and starts identifying himself with the virtual reality. And then he gets happiness and distress. So what Krishna is telling us here, that yes, causes and effects will go on in this material world, but happiness and distress comes due to our enjoying mentality. So, and now Krishna in the next verse in 13.22, Krishna will describe what is the consequence of the enjoying mentality. So this verse that we are going to discuss now, 13.22, is one of the most important verses of Bhagavad Gita. Acharya has described that this is the Bij Vakya of Bhagavad Gita. Now, what is Bij? Anyone knows what is Bij?
Seed.
Yeah. So Bij means a seed. So this is a seed from which a whole tree will come out. So this verse describes that seed from which the whole tree of material existence will come out. So we'll see how it happens. So let us now actually start. I'm going to share my screen. Prue, I'm not able to share my screen. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. Do you want to share your screen with verse 13.22?
Now can you try?
Okay, one second. Okay, is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, bro.
Good, all right. So let's recite this verse. This is 13.22. So before we go there, any comments about what we discussed about Prakriti and Purusha?
After you said that, I realized it's in the introduction, right?
Yeah, in the introduction about the 5 entities, right, Mataji?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there in the introduction of Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada describes that 5 entities are very clearly described in the Bhagavad Gita along with the definitions. So
yeah.
Okay, so I have a request. Now, if you don't have any comments or questions right now, I would request you to hold on your comments and questions until we complete this. Just this is a humble request. Just want to make sure that we cover this. This verse is important, so we might have a lot of things to discuss in this verse. There is also the concept of Maya comes here in this verse, so we'll try to talk about it. So if you have any comments or questions, please hold on until we finish. I'll try to leave a lot of time also to for the discussion. Okay. All right. So let's start reciting this verse. Purushah prakriti stohi.
Purushah prakriti stohi.
Bhunkte prakriti jan gunan.
Bhunte prakriti
jan
jana
Karanam guna sangosya. Sad asad yoni janmasu.
Tad asat yoni janmasu.
Purushah prakriti stohi.
Purusha prakriti stohi.
Bhunkte prakriti jan gunan.
Bhunte prakriti
jan gunan.
jana
Karanam Gunasangosya
Gunasangosya
Sad Asad Yoni Janmasu
Tadyoni Janmasu
Purushaha Prakriti Sthohi
Purusha
Prakriti
Sohi
Bhungte Prakriti Jan Gunan
Bhumte Prakriti Jangunan
Karanam Gunasangosya
Karanam Gunasangosya
Sad Asad Yoni Janmasu.
Tad Asadyoni Janmasu.
Anyone else would like to recite?
Purusha
Purusha
Go ahead.
Purusha Prakriti Stohi
Purushaha
Purusha
Prakriti
Prakriti
Stohi
Sohi
Bhungte Prakriti Jangunan
Bhungte
Bhumte
Prakriti Jan
Prakriti
Gunan
Jangunan
Karanam Guna Sangosya
Karanam
Karanam
Gunasangosya
Gunasangosya
Sad Asad Yoni Janmasu
Sad
Tad
Asad Yoni
Sadyoni
Janmasu
Janmasu Purusha Prakriti Stohi
Purushaha Prakriti Stohi
Bhumte Prakriti Jangunan
Bhungte Prakriti Jan Gunan
Karanam Gunasangosya
Karanam Gunasangosya
Tad Asadyoni Janmasu
Sad Asad Yoni Janmasu. Anyone else?
Purusha Prakriti Stohi
Purushaha
Purusha
Prakriti
Prakriti
Stohi
Stohi
Bhungte Prakriti Jangunan
Bhungte
Bhumte
Prakriti Jan
Prakriti
Gunan
Karanam Guna Sangosya
Karanam
Karanam
Gunasangosya
Gunasangosya
Tadasad Yoni Janmashu
Sad
Tad
Asad Yoni
Asadyoni
Janmasu.
Janmasu
Anyone else? Okay, so let's recite the synonyms. Purushaha,
Purusha
a living entity.
the living entity
Prakristha, Prakritistha,
Prakritistha
being situated in the material energy.
being situated in the material energy.
He,
He
certainly.
certain
Bhungte,
Bhumte
enjoys.
enjoys
Prakriti, Prakriti Jan,
Prakriti Jan
produced by the material nature.
produced by the material nature.
Gunan,
Gunan
the modes of nature.
the modes of nature.
Karanam,
Karma
the cause.
the cause.
Gun Sangaha,
Guna Sangam
the association with the modes of nature.
the association with the modes of nature.
Asya,
Asya
of the living entity.
of the living entity.
Sat Asat,
Sat Asat
in good and bad.
in good and bad.
Yoni,
Yoni
species of life.
species of life.
Janmasu,
Janmas
in births.
in birth.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with the material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil among various species. Purport. This verse is very important for an understanding of how the living entities transmigrate from one body to another. It is explained in the second chapter that the living entity is transmigrating from one body to another just as one changes dress. This change of dress is due to his attachment to material existence. As long as he is captivated by the false manifestation, he has to continue transmigrating from one body to another. Due to his desire to lord it over material nature, he is put into such undesirable circumstances. Under the influence of material desire, the entity is born, sometimes as a demigod, sometimes as a man, sometimes as a beast, as a bird, as a worm, as an aquatic, as a saintly man, as a bug. This is going on. And in all cases, the living entity thinks himself to be the master of his circumstances, yet he is under the influence of material nature. How he is put into such different bodies is explained here. It is due to association with the different modes of nature. One has to rise, therefore, above the three material modes and become situated in the transcendental position. That is called Krishna consciousness. Unless one is situated in Krishna consciousness, his material consciousness will oblige him to transfer from one body to another because he has material desires since time immemorial. But he has to change that conception. That change can be affected only by hearing from authoritative sources. The best example is here. Arjuna is hearing the signs of God from Krishna. The living entity, if he submits to this hearing process, will lose his long cherished desire to dominate material nature. And gradually and proportionately, as he reduces his long desire to dominate, he comes to enjoy spiritual happiness. In a Vedic mantra, it is stated that as he becomes learned in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he proportionately relishes his eternal blissful life. नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे. So I'll read the translation one more time. The living entity in material nature thus enjoys the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species. So now this is 13.22. So as Prabhupada says, this is a very important verse. And our acharyas describe that this verse is one of the most important verses of Bhagavad Gita. Purushaha prakriti stohi bhunkte prakriti jan gunan karana guna sangosya sad asad yoni janmasu. Am I still audible to everyone?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Actually, yeah, I had some problems on Saturday, so just want to be sure everybody is able to hear me. Okay.
I
So-
was just going to say, Ganpati, when you say that every verse in the Bhagavad Gita is important.
No, this is important from a point of view of, no, this section is Jnana section. So in the Jnana section, so we try to understand the nature of material existence. So this verse actually describes the root of the material existence. So in that sense, it is very important from the point of view of Jnana section of Bhagavad Gita. So that's why. So otherwise, yeah, I agree that, you know, there are many verses actually in the Bhagavad Gita that are extremely important. But if you want to understand the nature of the material existence, then we have to first understand where did it all start from. So this is explained in this verse. So moving on, this is one of the Mahavakyas of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, this is the most important verse from which we start understanding the whole nature of material existence. Now, Acharyas describe that just like every tree begins with a seed, so this verse, which shows how the soul gets embedded in the material nature. Purushaha prakriti stohi. Stohi means the Purusha is the soul. Prakriti stohi means he gets embedded in the material nature. Bhunkte prakriti jan guna. Now, because of the desire to enjoy, and what happens by that? Karanam guna sangosya, by the association of the modes of nature, sad asad yoni janmasu. One gets good and bad in the world. He takes birth in good and bad yonis. Sad and asad yoni. Yoni is the different species. Janmasu, you know, he takes birth in different species, good and bad. So actually, in the material world, all the species are bad only. You know, Krishna in the 9th chapter, he says that after you hear this knowledge, you know, he says towards the end of the 9th chapter, he says, you will get liberated from Shubh and Ashubh of this material world. So actually, what we say is Shubh in the material world is also actually Ashubh. No, it is Ashubh in the sense that it keeps us bound in the material nature. So no yoni in this material world is actually good. All the yonis are bad. No, it is like a jail, this material world. So although from a relative point of view, we may say that, okay, the human birth is much better than an animal birth, but still, why come to material world at all? Why come to a jail at all? Just stay out of the jail. So that is how it is. So the seed by which the soul gets embedded in the material nature is the desire to enjoy nature. And this seed will give rise to a tree. And Bhagavad Gita actually describes the tree of material nature in the 15th chapter, starting from verse number 1. It starts with Urdha Mula Madha Shakham, upside down banyan tree. So that upside down, it's actually an analogy, but actually it is the tree. So the whole tree of material existence starts from a seed. Now that seed is the desire to enjoy. Bhunkte prakriti. Bhunkte is the desire to enjoy, and what? Prakriti, matter. Now, interestingly, this tree is actually upside down. This tree will be described in detail in chapter 15. So, in the chapter 16, the Devas and Asuras are described. No, Devas are at the top of the tree and the Asuras are at the bottom of the tree. So those who are in between of the top and bottom, they are talked about in the chapter 17 of the Gita. So Krishna describes in the 16th chapter that those who have faith and control their desires, they are divine and they will be elevated. Those who don't control their desires and have no faith, they are demoniac and will be degraded. Now, he very clearly says that, no, I actually degrade them. They go lower and lower, lower and lower. They go to the lower species and lower planets. So then Arjuna actually asks a question in the 17th chapter. Now, what about those people who reject scriptures but they have faith? What about them? In the 16th chapter, and then those who are affected by different modes, who are in between the Devas and Asuras, they are described in the chapter 17 of the Gita. So I'm trying to give a little, overview of what is going to come in the Jnana section. So this tree is comprised primarily of the three modes of material nature. In the chapter 14, Krishna will introduce the three modes, and then he will describe how different people gets influenced by the modes. And then in the 18th chapter, Krishna will give a full overview of the Bhagavad Gita. And that is why 18th chapter is the longest chapter. It has 78 verses. Second chapter also, Krishna gives kind of an overview of what is going to come in the Bhagavad Gita. But the second chapter has 72 verses. It's the second largest chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But 18th chapter, he's summarizing everything. And then he's also speaking some concluding verses. And of course, the last 6 verses are spoken by Sanjay. So what happens in chapter 14? In this verse in 13.22, Krishna says, Karanam guna sangosya, due to the association of the modes. So how the association of modes influence the living entity is described in the chapter 14. So those who are influenced extremely by the modes are described in the 16th chapter, and those who are influenced intermittently are described in the 17th chapter. Now, question can be asked that actually the Jivatma is the superior energy. Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita in the 7th chapter, that the Jivas are his superior energy and the material energy is the inferior energy. Then a question can be asked, then how is it that the superior energy comes under the control of the inferior energy? This can happen only when the Jivatma desires. So when we desire to enjoy Maya, then we come under the clutches of Maya, and then the entanglement and the fall down starts. Just like say there is a television set. Now the television set can have many programs going on, but it is for me to turn on the television set and start seeing it. And when I start seeing it, then we can say, no, there is this channel, this is this channel, this program is coming, this match is going on, this movie is there, that song is going on. Now, then I can get completely entangled and spend hours and hours watching the whole thing. So how does the whole thing begin? The TV doesn't start on its own and calls me to come and watch me. It doesn't happen like that. No, it is for me to go and turn on the TV, and then my consciousness is caught. So similarly, matter is dead. And it cannot matter cannot directly control us, but it is we who desire to enjoy the matter, and then Maya catches us. So everything begins with our desire. And there are actually many verses that talk about this. Prabhupada quotes this verse many times. He has quoted in the purports as well as he has given lectures on this verse, which is, I believe it is from Chaitanya Charitamrita itself. It says, Krishna bhuliya jeev bhog vancha kare, nikataya maya tare jhapatiya dhare. This verse describes 3 phases of fall down. The Krishna bhuliya jeev. The first thing is that we forget Krishna. Till the time we are remembering Krishna, we are relishing at the spiritual level. But when we forget Krishna, we need happiness somewhere else. Why is that? Because we are inherently pleasure seeking. Radhanath Maharaj also describes this in one of the lectures. It is very famous. You might have seen that clipping of Radhanath Maharaj coming on Facebook and other. It got circulated in WhatsApp also many times. So he describes that we are inherently pleasure seeking. Krishna also says that in the Bhagavad Gita. The nature of the soul is Sat Chit Anand. So Anand means we are eternally seeking bliss or pleasure, and we can see it actually practically also in our day-to-day life. Now, all the activities that we do it because we want to get some happiness out of it. We have relationships with other persons, and because we think that, okay, this relationship can give me some happiness, we do different things so that we think that, okay, this can give me some happiness. We go to play, we go for a walk, we go for so many things. We never do a thing to get some misery out of, we say, oh, now I'm bored of happiness, let me get some misery. To for a change, this, let me get some misery, some pain. It doesn't work like that. We never do that. Why? Because we are inherently pleasure seeking. That is our nature. So therefore, bhoga vancha kare. We try to enjoy materially. And as soon as we desire, we come in the realm of Prakriti, and then jhapatiya dhare. We are caught by Maya. So just as long as Sita Devi was there inside the Lakshman Rekha, Ravana couldn't do anything. But as soon as Mother Sita, by her own will, came out of the Lakshman Rekha, Ravana grabbed her. So like that, as long as the soul is situated in the spiritual position, Maya cannot do anything. Maya can tempt the soul, but the soul personally comes out. It comes from the spiritual level to the material level. Now, once it comes down from spiritual level to the material level, it loses control, and then he gets caught. So it all begins with our desire. And the whole process of bhakti basically is the transformation of desires. So spiritual advancement means that our desires change, both the conscious desires and our subconscious desires. Now, both change by the practice of bhakti. That is the why we actually perform bhakti. We want to develop love for Krishna. Currently we have love for the matter. We love matter. We want different material things in our life. We want material relationships in our life. We want our material relatives to be happy with us. So all that is in the realm of Prakriti, in the realm of material nature. So what we are trying to do with the process of bhakti is we are trying to change our desires. We are trying to fix, we are trying to shift our consciousness from matter to the spiritual reality, to Krishna. So that is the process of bhakti actually. Now we can ask, what exactly is this Maya? How does it work actually? So Maya, the Vedic text gives a very clear and fundamental understanding of Maya. Now, there are different places at which Maya is described, but we need to actually reconcile these different descriptions to get a comprehensive understanding of what Maya actually is. Now, how does it work conceptually and how does it work functionally? So the definition of Maya actually is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. A very, very clear definition of Maya appears in the second canto. So actually there is a Chaturshloki Bhagavatam also. We know about Chaturshloki Bhagavad Gita. So Chaturshloki Bhagavad Gita is 10.8, 10.9, 10.10 and 10.11. Similarly, there is a Chaturshloki Bhagavatam. Anyone knows what those 4 verses are which are known as Chaturshloki Bhagavatam? Anyone knows what is?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
10.8 says that Ahamsa.
No. I'm not asking about the Chaturshloki Bhagavad Gita. I'm talking about
Bhagavatam, you are saying.
Bhagavatam, yeah.
Oh, okay. Then sorry.
Okay, all right, no problem. So actually, in the second canto, 9th chapter, I believe, verses 33, 34, 35, and 36. These 4 verses are called as Chaturshloki Bhagavatam. Now, these gives the full import of Bhagavatam just in 4 verses. So Chaturshloki Bhagavatam.
Maybe if it starts with Eva se Evagran, that series.
Mata, your voice is not clear. I'm not able to understand what you're saying.
So I was saying, Prabhu, is it Eva Sham Evagre?
Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah.
That.
It starts from there. That is 33, 9.33, 2.9.33. So this description of Maya appears in a conversation between Lord Brahma, who was the first living being in the material world, and Lord Vishnu. So Lord Brahma was about to unleash the material creation, but before doing that, he seeks guidance from the Supreme Lord Vishnu. So the definition of Maya is given in verse 2.9.34. It says, Rite artham yad parityeta na pratiyeta chatmani tad vidyad atmano mayam yatha bhasho yatha tamaha. O Brahma, Lord Vishnu is saying, O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy. So basically he says that to see things disconnected from the Supreme Lord Vishnu is the source of Maya, illusion. So that actually is Maya. So we generally, when we get a conception of Maya, Maya means actually Ma and Ya. These are the 2 words that come together. There's a sandhi of these two words. So Maya means, things are not as they appear. Not that, things are not as they appear. So if we see things in relationship to the Supreme Lord, then we actually see things as they are. So, but if we see things disconnected from the Lord, then we actually immediately are under the realm of Maya. That is how we can understand that, if something we are seeing independent of the Lord, that gives rise to Maya. So actually Lord Krishna, in his instruction to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, he also confirms that he is the original seed of the entire creation and nothing can actually exist without him. Which is that verse? It is in the 10th chapter, 39th verse. Yachapi sarva bhutanam bijam tadam arjuna natadasti vinayasyan maya bhutam characharam. He says, I am the generating seed of all existences. There is no being, moving or non-moving, char achar, that can exist without me. So actually, and Krishna also says, the material creation that we see around us, it is just a spark of his splendor. Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam shrimad urjitam evava taddad eva gachatvam mam tejo amsha sambhavam. Mam tejo amsha sambhavam. Just a spark of my splendor. So when we see things not in relationship with Krishna, that time we are under the realm of Maya. So this is a definition that Lord Vishnu gives in the Bhagavatam itself. Now we also understand that actually Maya is one of the energies of Krishna, and Krishna himself says that actually in the Bhagavad Gita. It is in the 7th chapter. It is verse 7.14. Devi hi isha gunamai mama maya duratyaya mam eva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. He says that this divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, it is very difficult to overcome. But who can overcome that? No, if a person surrenders unto me, then he can easily cross beyond it. So he says, no, this divine energy is my energy, and it consists of the three modes of nature. So now Prabhupada actually gives a more fundamental understanding of Maya. It appears in one of his purports. So he says that actually Maya has two sub-potencies. Maya itself is a potency of the Lord, but it has two sub-potencies. The first is Avarnatmika and the second is Prakshashatmika. So I'm just reading what Srila Prabhupada says here. He says, Avarnatmika potency of Maya covers the real identity of a person. The word Avaran means covering. So in the first phase, Maya makes the living entity forgetful of its real identity as a soul. So our most fundamental identity is that we are souls, and as souls, we are parts and particles of Krishna. Now it is Krishna himself says that the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragment parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with their senses. Now, because we forget our real identity as souls, we also forget our relationship with the Supreme Person. So, what is our relationship with the Supreme Person? Anyone would like to answer that? What is our relationship with Krishna?
Servant?
Yeah. Jivara Sarup hoy Nityer Krishna Das.
Krishna Das.
Yeah, that is our relationship, and we forget that. We want to enjoy ourselves. So Avarnatmika potency, what it does is it basically instills a notion that I am comfortable with my current position. I am enjoying and I am comfortable in my current position, and everything is fine in my material life. No, why should I change it? What is the need to change it? So in one of the purports of Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada says this spell of Maya is called Avarnatmika Shakti. I'm just reading this here. This spell of Maya is called Avarnatmika Shakti because it is so strong that the living entity is satisfied in any abominable condition. Even if he is born as a worm living within the intestine or abdomen in the midst of urine and stool, still he is satisfied. This is Srimad Bhagavatam 4.7.44. This is what Prabhupada says about Avarnatmika. And then Prakshashatmika potency, what it does is it gives, so Avarnatmika first covers the real identity. The real knowledge of the soul is covered by Avarnatmika. Avaran means a covering. And Prakshashatmika potency, what it does is it gives a false identity to the soul. So Jiva starts identifying himself with the particular body that he has acquired in the influence of the three modes of material nature. So Prabhupada says about Prakshashatmika, when somebody is trying to come to Krishna consciousness, the Prakshashatmika Shakti will dictate, why are you going to the Krishna consciousness society? There are so many restrictions there, so many rules and regulations. Better give it up. And the conditioned soul thinks, why? Yes, this Krishna consciousness is nonsense. Let me give it up. So this Prabhupada says in Dharma, the way of transcendence. This is in chapter 10. So actually, this is how the Maya has two subpotents, and that is how it works. So we discussed three things about Maya. One is that, we discussed the definition of Maya. So Maya is basically, the definition is to see things disconnected from Krishna. That gives rise to illusion. That gives rise to Maya. And then we discussed that actually Maya is the energy of Krishna. This is what Krishna describes in 7.14. And third is, we talked about the two subpotencies of Maya, Avaranatmika and Prakshashatmika. So actually, the verse that we are discussing now, 13.22, it describes the fall of the jiva from the spiritual world to the material reality, the material realm. How does the fall happen? So we discussed two things. One is the verse itself, Purusha Prakriti Stohi Bhumte Prakriti Jangunan. So the desire to enjoy, that gives rise to the tree of material existence. And then we discussed also about Krishna Bhuliya ji Bhoga Vancha Kare Nikataya Maya Tare Jhapatiya Dhare. No, the first problem that we have is, we forget Krishna. And when we forget Krishna, we want to enjoy at the material level, because as long as we were remembering Krishna, we were getting enjoyment at the spiritual level. But when we forget Krishna, we still need enjoyment, but then we seek the enjoyment somewhere else. And at that time, we try to enjoy Maya. And then when we try to enjoy Maya, when we try to enjoy Prakriti, that time when that desire comes, when we come from the spiritual world to the material realm, Maya catches us, Jhapatiya Dhare. So after that, we lose our control. The jiva loses the control, and then it is under the clutches of Maya. So this basically describes the fall of the jiva from the spiritual realm to the material realm. So this discussion, as I said, so once we have discussed the root, the seed of the material existence, so the whole tree will be described now in the further chapters. Chapter 14, 15, 16, and 17 will basically describe the full tree of the material existence. So we'll see when it comes to that. But I'll just take a pause here and see if there are any questions.
Yeah, the Avaranatmika, and what was the other Shakti you said?
It is Prakshashatmika, Mataji.
Prakshashatmika. So Prakshashatmika tries to stop you from...
Yeah, basically it gives us a false identity of ourselves. So it basically gives the identity. So the Avaranatmika first covers our real identity, our real knowledge. And then the Prakshashatmika gives us a false notion. It tries to tell us that, okay, we are not the soul, we are the body. So it basically reinforces that that notion. We already have it because of false ego. But the Prakshashatmika, it reinforces that that notion within us. So it gives us untrue knowledge, false knowledge. And then Prabhupada writes in the Dharma, the way of transcendence, that actually it stops us from going to Krishna actually. So we should have, Prabhupada says, one of the questions was asked to Prabhupada, why is Maya so strong? This is very famous, you might know, right?
Yeah.
It's very very striking also in one sense. So he says that actually Maya is not strong, you are very weak, your determination is very weak. That is why Maya it seems strong. So we have to have a very strong determination, and then we can go beyond Maya. We have to surrender to Krishna.
But it is also said in the Bhagavad Gita that Maya is so strong that you cannot by yourself overcome it.
Yeah, so we have to surrender to Krishna. That's what he says, 7.14. We discussed that verse, right, just now.
The main thing is that Maya is a sort of illusion, and when we go with Maya, we forget Krishna. But the realization of Krishna brings back to the spiritual realization again.
Actually, no, the sequence that is given is first we forget Krishna, and then we try to enjoy Maya.
Yeah.
So everything starts from forgetfulness of our relationship with Krishna. From there it all starts.
Then we have to come back and, to the spiritual world and be with Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. So actually, Krishna says that in 7.14, Devihi Isha Gunamai Mam Maya Duratyaya. No, this material energy of mine is very difficult to overcome. But how can you overcome? Mam evaya prapadyante. No, by surrendering to me, you can overcome this. Maya etam taranti.
You have to surrender to Krishna, that's all.
Right.
But surrender doesn't mean just lip service, right? I mean,
exactly.
surrender as a big.
Right. Yeah, it sounded like you just have to surrender to Krishna, but it's not
I just
that
have
easy.
to surrender because a lot of people say that's like the Christian surrender. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The Christians say like as long as you surrender to Christ, it's fine. You know, and then you can keep on sinning and keep on surrendering. You know, that doesn't work.
Yeah, today only I was reading about that. It's a very important thing. Yes, go ahead, Mataji, please complete that.
Hare Krishna, I want to say that you have to stay away from Maya to get the realization for spiritualness, you know.
Yeah, right, Mataji. I'm just bringing up what Prabhupada says about it. Yeah, here is it. My dear Christ, you suffer for our sinful activities, and let us go on with our sinful activities. Christ says, thou shalt not kill. They decided, let us kill on and open scientific slaughterhouse. And if there is any sin, then Christ will suffer. That's all. He has taken the agency on suffering. So this is from a lecture of Srimad Bhagavatam that Srila Prabhupada gave on June 8, 1975. He was speaking on verse 6.1.6.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and we have to understand what staying away from Maya means. What does surrender mean? All those are very deep subjects.
exactly, yeah. It's not very simple.
They're not just simple statements.
Simple.
Yeah, it's easy to say this.
But it is a very hard thing to do.
That is true, Mataji. Yeah. That's what we are discussing, right? So, all right.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, go ahead, Prabhuji.
So, Prabhuji, you explained the fall down from spiritual world to material world is because soul forgets Krishna, and reason for forgetting Krishna is soul has a desire to enjoy other than Krishna, and the reason for that desire that I'm not getting. So I'm just asking question, why I'm falling because I forget, why I'm forgetting because there is a desire. Now the question is why I have a desire in spiritual world.
Okay.
That is, I'm not getting the answer.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll give two answers to this. First of all, what we discussed about Krishna Bhulya Ji Bhogwancha Kare. So our first problem is that we forget Krishna. And from there it all starts. So when till the time we are enjoying with Krishna, we are enjoying at the spiritual level. Now, when we forget Krishna, for whatever reason, it could be because of envy or of our own desire to, enjoy separate from the Lord. We actually, when we try to forget Krishna actually, he never interferes with our free will. So he lets us forget him. So what happens after that is, because we are inherently pleasure seeking, that is our real nature. The Sat Chit Anand, when we say the soul is Sat Chit Anand, that means Anand means it is seeking bliss in every activity that it does. It is seeking bliss. It is seeking pleasure, enjoyment. So when we don't get pleasure at the spiritual level, we are still pleasure seeking. We try to get that pleasure at somewhere, some other source. So then the other source apart from spiritual enjoyment is the material, the material energy. So when we try to enjoy matter, at that time we fall down. We actually, so as I explained, that as long as Mother Sita was inside the Lakshman Rekha, Ravana couldn't do anything. But as soon as she came out from her own will, at her own will, she came out of Lakshman Rekha, and then Ravana grabbed her. So the fall happens when we forget Krishna, we desire to enjoy something separate, something different, and then the Maya catches us. We also discussed about the television thing, So the television is dead. It doesn't call us, you come and watch me. It is we who desire to watch television. And as soon as you turn on the switch of television, there are 1,000 channels on television nowadays. And then there are this Netflix and this Flix and that Flix, Prime Video and whatnot. So then we get caught, our consciousness is caught. And then even if you initially wanted to just see television for say 10 minutes, as soon as it catches our consciousness, we spend hours and hours just serving the different channels. So that is how Maya works. No, essentially matter is dead. No, it cannot do anything. But when we desire to enjoy matter, then we get caught in by the Prakriti. Now, having said that, this question about how did the jiva fell into the material world, this question is a rather problematic question even for ISKCON. Why? Although acharyas have given us indicative descriptions about the fall of jiva in the material world from the spiritual world, still you will not find very clear descriptions about it in the shastras, in the Vedic scriptures. There are indicative verses like this verse, Purushaha prakriti stohi bhungte prakriti jan gunan. It starts from the desire to enjoy matter. But why does that desire come? What exactly happened? Why did we desire like that? All those descriptions are not given in the Shastra. So actually acharyas have explained this in many different ways. And this actually had become a problem even for our own ISKCON, society, because different even in our own sampradaya, different acharyas have given different answers for it, that why the jiva falls. They try to interpret different scriptures in different ways, and I'm not saying it is possible that one person may have fell for one reason, the other person may have fell for another reason. There could be multiple reasons for the fall of many different souls. It is not that there could be just one reason for the fall of all the jivas. So I'll give you so what happened is, there are some even in our ISKCON society, there were some scholars who tried to buy
We
Prabhu, your
can't,
video
we
was
can't hear
froze.
you. Yeah, okay. We lost you for 1 minute.
Okay, is it better now?
Yes, yes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they try to present a completely different stand from what Srila Prabhupada had said. So when they actually took a different stand, some of the people didn't like it in ISKCON, and it went to an extent that they were expelled from ISKCON. Some of the people were expelled actually for this. That's what I've heard. So actually, what are the different stands that different acharyas have taken? So actually, Prabhupada himself have given different understandings about this. So here we see that in this chapter itself, Prabhupada had explained that we actually desired to enjoy separate from the Lord, and we became envious of the Lord, and that is how we fell. But if you see in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada, when there is this description about Jaya and Vijay, their story comes in there. So there, Prabhupada in one of the purports, right, therefore the conclusion is that no one ever falls from the spiritual world to the material world. He said, therefore that is the conclusion. So like that, Prabhupada actually had talked different things himself about this. Now, what are the different understandings about this? Now, how did the jiva fell from the spiritual world to the material world? The one is what we just discussed. Now, it is because of our own desire to enjoy separate from the Lord. The other thing is we could have actually become envious of Krishna. We rebelled against Krishna and then we fell down. The other is, some people say that we were never in the spiritual world. There are Nitya Siddhas. Similarly, there are Nitya Baddhas. Nitya Baddhas means people who are eternally in the material world. They were never in the spiritual world. But there is a facility that you can by your sadhana, or by kripa of some liberated soul. Sadhana Siddha or Kripa Siddha. These are the two kind of siddha. Actually, there is a third category, Nitya Siddhas, but we are definitely not in that category because we are in the material world. So we can either become Sadhana Siddha or we can become Kripa Siddha. So by these two ways, we can actually go back to the spiritual world. So this is one of the understanding. The third is, the third understanding is that we are not in the material world actually. This is a little confusing. What they say is, we are actually in the spiritual world, but our consciousness is focused at the material reality. We are actually in the spiritual world, just as when we watch television. We watch television sitting at our home, but say for example there is a cricket match going on between India and Pakistan in Eden Garden in India, in Calcutta. So sitting in US, our consciousness goes to Eden Garden in Calcutta. Similarly, the way they explain is that actually we are in the spiritual world only, but our consciousness is projected in the material world. and that is why we think that we are in the material. It is like this, like we were discussing about simulation, virtual reality. So what we are experiencing is actually virtual reality. So they say that no, this material world is not real. No, it is just our consciousness is projected here. The other understanding that is given within our own sampradaya, all of this I am telling you in our own sampradaya, not outside. So they say that actually, no, we say that the jiva is actually tatastha shakti. So we have the superior energy, inferior energy, and the tatastha shakti is in between. So they explain that actually when the jivas are when they were coming out, jivas were being coming out from the body of Mahavishnu. So because they are tatastha, they are falling at the tata of at the border of the spiritual world and the material world. Some of the jivas fell in the spiritual world by chance, and some of the jivas fell in the material world by chance again. So it happened just by chance that some jivas went to the spiritual world and some jivas they went to the material world. So like the things, but the point is, this you will not find clear cut in verses which describe what is the real, this is exactly how this happened, Mr. So and so fed on because of this, and so those clear things are not given in the Shastras. They are indicative verses. And when I say indicative, different people try to interpret it differently. Even in our own sampradaya, different acharyas have given different understandings about this. So this is a little problematic subject, and that's why Prabhupada also had once said that very famously, that it is not important for us to know how we came. What is important for us to know is how do we go out of here. If you don't know how you got inside the jail, breaking our heads and trying to find out how did I get inside jail, that's not going to help. What is going to help is how do I get out of the jail. So he says that actually first you get out of here and then you can try to find out how did you get here. So that is more important for us. So when someone asks this question, I get a little scared because different people come from different understandings. So it is better to
I know. I've heard even other explanations, like first we fall down as Brahma. We really don't. We want to serve Krishna in a slightly different way than how he wants us to serve him, and that's why we fall down as. And then it's like you might just say, "Oh, I'm going to experiment by taking one drink." You know what I'm saying? And then little by little you get more and more addicted before you know it, type of thing. So you fall down more and more and more. Since time immemorial. But Srila Prabhupada also gave that analogy when you're in a house that is on fire.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't figure out how did this fire start.
Right.
You just try to get out of that fire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Prabhuji, one follow-up question. Thank you, Prabhuji. I think you explained a lot. You give 360-degree explanation. So typically when one is in the spiritual world and some event happens, that is desire to enjoy other than Krishna, that is all agreed. But that moment of desire to enjoy other than Krishna, I think that starts when either with the presence of some material modes of nature, right? Because envy, greed, these are all outcomes of the material modes of nature. What is I'm trying to figure out is spiritual world is completely there is no even drop of the material modes of nature, right? So are we saying some level of material modes are there I mean active, so that whoever falls prey, they fall down? Is that
actually
no?
And I will let I'll just answer quickly, and I'll let Damodar Swarup Prabhu also talk about it, because he was talking to me, I remember just now last week, about he heard Maharaj, I'm missing the name of Maharaj, Jayadvaita Maharaj talk about this subject. But my understanding is there is no envy in the spiritual world. There is no material modes of nature in the material world. It is completely free of any kind of envy. But what is there in the spiritual world is our free will. Our free will is always there with us, and sometimes we misuse our free will. And when we misuse our free will, at that time we become an offender. And basically what happens is, so when acharyas have explained this material world in two different ways. One is the analogy of jail is given, that we are kind of rebellious souls. We are like criminals. we rebelled against Krishna, and that is why we're in the material world. The second analogy that is used by the Acharyas is a hospital analogy, that we are actually sick. We have this fever of Maya that has caught us, and that is why we need to get this treatment done. So we are getting treated now, and this treatment basically happens with the help of the spiritual master. So the spiritual master will help us get this treatment and help us get out of the material world. So these two analogies have been used by the Acharyas. So what is there in the spiritual world is not modes of material nature, but definitely what is there is our own free will, and sometimes we misuse our free will. Damodar Swarup Prabhu, I know you were explaining something to me last week.
Prabhuji. I think, Prabhu, you mentioned it right. See, the potency, Maharaj was telling Jayadratha Maharaj, the potency always remains. So if you are in this world, right, as initially someone is eating meat or they are not following the rules, regulatory principles, they can do illicit sex or other thing. And after coming into Krishna consciousness, they leave all that. But it doesn't mean that they cannot do that. So they still have that potency. So once you go to the spiritual world, Maharaj was telling, you don't utilize that potency in a negative way, because once you have experienced this material world, and now you don't utilize that potency, but the potency always remains. So you can fall down, but you don't utilize that potency, because now you are very adhere. You have already tasted what is bad, and now you went back to the Godhead.
Prabhuji, I think so far we learned is like material modes of nature is a real culprit that influence your free will, because that's
Prabhu,
where problem starts, right, Prabhuji?
No, we didn't learn that. We learned that our desire to enjoy is the real culprit. So that is the root of the existence of that is the root of the material existence that gives rise to the tree of material existence. So that is the root.
Yeah.
Now the material existence consists of the three modes of material.
Yeah, Prabhuji, like we say, like when we go back to the spiritual world, like we're back home, back to God here, we will never come back to this material world, right? Like that is a thing which we learned, right? Like when you go back, we are never going to come back again here. So that means like how we will have the desire to come back here. Like we have that, we should not come back here. So for that only we are going back again there.
Yeah, so again, the same thing, we will not, it is, the way it is we have our own free will. So we will not misuse it again after we go back, because once we have experienced the material world, once we have experienced Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam, that is described in the 13th chapter itself in the verse 11, I believe 13.11. So once we have experienced this, it is mentioned that we will probably not misuse our free will again, but that free will is always there with us. And there is always that possibility is there, but
we won't do it the second time around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why would we do it? It is like hitting
Yeah.
our own head on the wall.
Right.
So it is like that.
And Ravindra Swarup, I had read the article in BTG by Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, and he had said that actually our entire stay in the material world, when we go back home to the spiritual world, feels like an instant compared to infinity, because spiritual world time, it's infinite time, and compared to that time, our really sojourn in the material world seems like really a moment, so we will like, oh my God, how did I get, so you will never come back again, he says, second time around.
All right, Mati, I think we can stop here because it's 8:30. We have the other class also here.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Very nice class. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I'm sorry, not about any last comments, not questions before we. Okay, so I know we.
Very nice class, Prabhuji.
Very nice class, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. So I just want to bring up to Vrinda. It is her birthday today, so I would request.
Oh yeah, I actually wanted to say happy birthday to Vrinda.
Yeah, so I'll go to her room. I would request all of you to give your blessings to Vrinda. 1 second, I'll bring her.
Kirti, come. Vrinda is there. Come.
Vrinda.
Are you still able to hear me?
Yeah, but we
Yes,
can't see
Prabhu.
you.
Okay, actually, I removed my headphones. Okay, my wife said that Pyari Prabhu is okay. Pyari Prabhu is here.
Pyari is on.
Tulsi, your friend's birthday. Brinda.
Brinda.
Where's Rinda?
She's here.
Oh, wow.
Hare Krishna to you. Hare Krishna to you. Hare Krishna, dear Vrinda. Hare Krishna to you. May you never take your birthday. May you never take your birthday. May you never take birth again. Go back to Godhead. Go back, come back to Godhead. Go back, come back to Godhead.
Happy Krishna Conscious birthday, Brinda.
Happy
Hari
Krishna
Bol.
Conscious
Hari Hari
birthday.
Bol.
Are you one? Are you two?
Two.
Are you three? Are you four?
Are you five?
five?
Are you?
How old are you, Brenda? How old?
How old are you?
Four. Are you 4 years old?
Radhika.
You look very pretty.
Pretty. Yeah.
Beautiful. You look like a
Beautiful.
princess.
Happy birthday, Rinda.
She looks like me.
So cute.
Your dress